Elon Musk has 5 companies. Warren Buffett owns dozens of stocks. And every financial guru on this app is screaming that you need 7 streams of income to get rich. They are lying to you. Chasing 7 half-baked side hustles is exactly why you're exhausted, broke, and stuck in a 9 to 5 loop. You aren't building wealth. You're just spreading your energy so thin that nothing grows. Data from 2026 shows that 84% of self-made millionaires built 100% of their initial wealth through just one core business asset, while individuals juggling 3 or more side hustles average less than $500 a month in extra revenue due to severe cognitive fragmentation. Today, we are busting the millionaire myth. I'm going to show you the actual financial freedom strategy used by the ultra-wealthy. You'll learn exactly why diversification is a trap early on and how to scale one single asset to 6 figures without burning out. Most people confuse maintaining wealth with creating wealth. Rich people diversify to protect their money, but you cannot protect what you don't have yet. When you try to build a dropshipping store, write a blog, and trade crypto all at the same time, you suffer from severe shiny object syndrome. You have 100 units of daily energy. If you divide that by 7, you give each project about 14%. That is a failing grade in any school, and it is a failing grade in business. You do not need diversified income streams yet. You need one aggressive stream that actually works. Let's talk about the phrase that has ruined our generation: passive income. True passive income requires 2 things: massive capital or a fully automated system. If you have neither, your passive side hustle is just a low-paying second job. Real wealth creation requires a temporary obsession. The rule of one avatar, 1 product, 1 channel, 1 year. You have to hit a critical mass before a business can run without you. Stop trying to automate a system that hasn't even made its first $1,000. Focus on one thing until it hurts. Master a single high-value skill, monetize it directly, and pump every ounce of your cognitive bandwidth into scaling a business that has actual legs. I know what you're thinking right now. If I drop my print-on-demand store and my affiliate blog to focus on just one skill, I'm wasting all the months of work I already put into them. That is sunk cost anxiety talking. It's a psychological trick keeping you trapped in mediocrity. Admitting that a side project isn't working isn't failure. It is strategy. Rich people pivot fast. Poor people drag dead projects along out of pride. Drop the dead weight. Take the hard lessons you learned from those failed experiments and pour that experience into your primary vehicle. When you focus your attention, your income follows. The illusion of multitasking is keeping you trapped in the rat race. You don't need more projects. You need more depth. Once your first business is consistently making $10,000 a month, then and only then do you have the capital to buy your second stream of income. Until that day, your only job is to protect your focus. If you are ready to break the cycle of exhaustion and learn how to build wealth by fixing your daily workflow, click on this video right here. I break down the exact high-leverage routine that allows you to outproduce your competition in just 4 hours a day. Watch it now, and let's fix your focus. You are being fed financial poison by people who got rich selling you the cure. Every morning you wake up, open this app, and see a 24-year-old guru sitting in a rented sports car telling you that if you don't have 7 streams of income, you are failing. They tell you to start a dropshipping store on Monday, launch an affiliate blog on Wednesday, buy automated vending machines on Friday, and trade crypto options over the weekend. They call it diversification. They call it building an empire. But let's look at your bank account. You are working 50, 60, maybe 70 hours a week between your corporate job and these half-baked side projects. You are running on 4 hours of sleep. Your mind feels like a browser with 45 tabs open, and at the end of the month, you've made maybe $400 from your extra streams. You think the problem is that you aren't working hard enough. You think you just need a better Notion template or a new AI productivity tool. It's a lie. You are trapped in a beautifully designed psychological prison. Data from 2026 shows that 84% of self-made millionaires built 100% of their initial wealth through just one core business asset, while individuals juggling 3 or more side hustles average less than $500 a month in extra revenue due to severe cognitive fragmentation. Let that sink in. The very strategy you are using to get rich is statistically guaranteeing that you stay broke. This is not a standard 10-minute YouTube video. This is a complete, execution-level masterclass. Over the next 30 minutes, we are going to dismantle the entire multi-stream myth and replace it with the hyper-focused framework used by the ultra-wealthy. Here is exactly what we are breaking down today. Chapter 1. The Diversification Trap. We will dissect the psychological fraud of trying to protect wealth you haven't even created yet. Chapter 2. The Myth of Passive Income. Why your automated side hustles are actually low-paying, high-stress second jobs. Chapter 3. Cognitive Architecture. The precise brain chemistry of why your focus fractures when you chase more than one offer. Chapter 4. The Sunk Cost Cure. How to ruthlessly murder your failing side projects without feeling like a failure. Chapter 5. The Monolithic Monopolist. The step-by-step framework to scale one single asset to six figures and beyond before you ever touch a second stream. If you are looking for quick-fix dopamine hits, click away right now. But if you are ready to finally build true, unshakable wealth, sit back, close your other tabs, and let's look at the raw math. Chapter 1. The Diversification Trap. To understand why you are spinning your wheels, we have to look at a fundamental misunderstanding of financial history. The entire 7 streams of income concept comes from an old IRS study that looked at the tax returns of established millionaires. The study found that, on average, these wealthy individuals had money coming in from 7 different places: wages, interest, dividends, real estate, business equity, capital gains, and royalties. The gurus read that study and inverted the logic. They assumed that because rich people have 7 streams of income, the way to become rich is to create 7 streams of income. This is a catastrophic logical fallacy. It is the equivalent of looking at a professional bodybuilder, seeing that they take ice baths, and concluding that if you sit in an ice bath for 6 hours a day, you will magically grow 20 pounds of muscle without ever lifting a weight. They are confusing the maintenance of wealth with the creation of wealth. There are 2 completely distinct phases in a financial life cycle. Phase 1 is wealth creation. Wealth creation is an inherently aggressive, asymmetric, and deeply focused act. It requires you to take a massive amount of energy, time, and focus and compress it into a single point to break through the resistance of a competitive market. It is a vertical movement. You are going from 0 to 1. Phase 2 is wealth maintenance. This is a defensive act. Once you have made $5 million, $10 million, or $50 million, your primary enemy is no longer poverty. Your enemy is inflation, market crashes, lawsuits, and bad luck. To protect that massive pile of cash, you spread it out. You put some in real estate, some in index funds, some in private equity, and some in government bonds. You diversify so that if one sector of the economy collapses, your lifestyle doesn't change. But look at what you are doing right now. You are trying to play defense before you even have a ball. You are trying to hedge against market volatility when you don't even have a product. You are taking your tiny, fragile stack of capital and your limited daily energy, and you are spreading it across 4 different microscopic projects. You aren't protecting an empire. You are just ensuring that none of your projects ever receive enough energy to get off the ground. Let's look at the underlying psychology of why this happens. It's driven by a phenomenon we all know too well, shiny object syndrome. But this isn't just a lack of discipline, it's an optimization failure in your brain chemistry. When you start a new side project, let's say you decide to launch a print-on-demand t-shirt brand, your brain floods you with dopamine. You are in the uninformed optimism phase. Everything is exciting. You design a logo, you pick a domain name, you set up the store. It feels like you are making progress, because your brain cannot differentiate between the dopamine of planning a business and the dopamine of making a sale. But then, within 3 to 4 weeks, you hit the wall. You enter the informed pessimism phase. You realize you have to run ads. You realize CPMs are high. You realize your margins are razor thin. The work becomes boring, tedious, and frustrating. Suddenly, the dopamine dries up. Right at that exact moment of frustration, you scroll through your feed and see a video titled, "Dropshipping is dead. Do this new AI side hustle instead." Your brain immediately lights up. It latches onto the new idea because it promises a shortcut around the boring, painful bottleneck you are currently facing in your first business.
So what do?
You abandon the t-shirt store, or worse, you keep it running on maintenance mode, and you launch the newsletter. You repeat this cycle every 6 months. The result? You become a professional beginner. You have 7 entry-level setups, 7 domains, 7 subscription bills for software tools, and absolutely zero depth. You have master-level knowledge of how to sign up for accounts and novice-level knowledge of how to actually scale a business. To understand how devastating this is to your output, imagine a military general who has an army of 10,000 elite soldiers. His objective is to capture a highly fortified city surrounded by massive stone walls. If that general is competent, he takes all 10,000 soldiers, focuses them on a single weak point in the wall, hammers it with artillery continuously for days, breaches the gap, and takes the city. Now imagine that same general decides to adopt the 7 streams of strategy approach. He looks at 7 different fortified cities across the continent. He splits his army into 7 small factions of roughly 1,400 men each. He sends one faction to attack Fortress A, one to Fortress B, one to Fortress C, and so on. What happens? Every single faction arrives at a different wall, completely outnumbered, lacks the heavy artillery needed to breach the gates, and gets entirely wiped out by the defenders. The general didn't build an empire. He just committed strategic suicide through fragmentation. Your focus is your army. Every time you open a new tab to work on a separate business venture, you are taking an elite squad of your cognitive energy and sending them out into the wilderness to die alone. The market does not reward participation, it rewards dominance. And you cannot dominate an industry with 14% of your attention. Let's look at how actual, modern wealth is built by studying people who have successfully generated hundreds of millions of dollars. Take a look at Alex Hormozi. Before he became a multimillionaire investor with a massive portfolio of diversified companies under acquisition.com, he didn't start 7 small side hustles. He didn't try to flip real estate while running an e-commerce brand while doing consulting. He had one single company, Gym Launch. For years, his entire life was compressed into a single, monomaniacal focus, scaling a business that helped gym owners get more clients. He didn't change his avatar. He didn't change his product. He didn't launch a second brand. He took that one offer, optimized the sales script, perfected the fulfillment, and hammered that single point until it was doing over $30 million a year in licensing revenue. Only after that asset was completely saturated, fully systematized, and spitting off millions of dollars in liquid cash did he take that capital and begin to diversify into other businesses. The exact same pattern applies to Elon Musk. He didn't start Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and The Boring Company at the same time. He took every single dollar he made from the sale of PayPal, roughly $180 million, and poured it entirely into his primary vehicles, nearly going bankrupt in the process because he refused to hedge his bets. He achieved critical mass on one massive, asymmetric bet before expanding outward. The wealthiest people on Earth are not multitaskers during their wealth creation phase. They are monomaniacs. They find one high-leverage opportunity, and they commit to it with a level of ferocity that makes ordinary people uncomfortable. If you want the returns of the top 1%, you have to stop acting like the bottom 99%. You have to stop looking for safety in numbers and start looking for power and focus. Now that you understand the psychological trap of diversification, we need to address the second biggest lie you've been told, the lie that you can build these streams without sweat equity. Chapter 2. The myth of passive income. We need to have an honest conversation about the phrase that has mentally crippled an entire generation of aspiring entrepreneurs: passive income. It is the ultimate marketing hook. It paints a picture of a life where you do the work once, sit on a beach in Bali, and watch notifications pop up on your phone while money automatically drops into your bank account. It promises escape without effort. It promises reward without sacrifice. It is a complete psychological illusion. In the real world, cash flow is governed by the laws of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created out of nothing. In business, revenue is simply a reflection of value delivered, and value requires constant, active inputs of either massive capital or relentless human labor. When you buy into the fantasy that a beginner can build a passive empire from scratch with no money, you are setting yourself up for a very specific type of entrepreneurial hell. You're trying to harvest a crop on land you haven't even cleared yet. Let's pull back the curtain on what these supposedly passive side hustles actually look like in the first 12 to 24 months. You are told to launch a print-on-demand store or an automated dropshipping brand because it's passive fulfillment. But what they don't tell you is that you are entering a hyper-commoditized market with razor-thin margins. You aren't relaxing on a beach. You're spending 3 hours a night fighting ad platform algorithms that change weekly. You are dealing with volatile customer acquisition costs that eat your entire profit margin overnight. You are spending your weekends responding to angry emails about delayed shipping from factories in overseas supply chains. If your store's ad account gets banned, which happens to thousands of beginners every single day, your income drops to zero instantly. To fix it, you have to spend days submitting appeals, reading terms of service, and building new funnels. That is not passive income. That is an incredibly volatile, high-stress, low-paying, active second job. You have simply traded a stable 9 to 5 corporate manager for a brutal, unforgiving master, a digital algorithm that does not care about your sleep schedule. True passive income exists, but it has a strict barrier to entry. It requires either a massive ledger of liquid capital, minimum $1 million, or a highly advanced, proprietary software system run by an established team. If you don't have the capital to buy the system and you don't have the scale to hire the team, you're the system. To break out of this loop, you must understand the rent versus build framework. This dictates how you allocate your 2 most valuable resources, your time and your focus. When you spread yourself across multiple small side hustles, you are effectively renting your time to various decentralized digital platforms. You are trying to capture micro-margins from Amazon's traffic or Etsy's marketplace or a programmatic ad network. Because you don't own the underlying infrastructure, you have to constantly work just to keep your head above water. You are a tenant on someone else's land, paying rent in the form of your finite cognitive energy. Wealth creation requires you to build an equity asset. An equity asset is a singular, unified business entity where every hour of labor you invest compounds the value of the whole. When you focus on one core business, your market research feeds your product development. Your product development refines your sales process. Your sales process increases your cash flow. Your cash flow allows you to hire your first employee. Every single action you take builds upon the last one. You are constructing a fortress, brick by brick. When you chase 7 streams, you are laying a single brick in 7 different fields. At the end of the year, you don't have a house. You just have 7 trip hazards. Let's look at the raw, undeniable math of what it actually takes to replace a standard 9 to 5 income through genuinely passive means. Let's assume your baseline target for financial freedom strategy is a modest $60,000 a year, just $5,000 a month before taxes. If you want to generate that $60,000 completely passively through a traditional, safe dividend fund yielding a reliable 4% annually, do you know how much liquid cash you need to invest upfront? You need $1,500,000. You need $1.5 million sitting in an account, untouched, just to pull out $50,000 a year without eroding your principal. Let's say you choose real estate instead, because you want leverage. You want to buy residential rental properties. To net a clean $5,000 a month in true profit, after subtracting mortgages, property taxes, insurance, maintenance reserves, and property management fees, you typically need a portfolio of at least 8 to 10 single-family homes. Even with conservative financing, the down payments, closing costs, and renovation fees for that portfolio will require roughly $300,000 to $400,000 in liquid capital. Where are you getting that capital? You cannot save your way to $1 million portfolio on a $500 a month side hustle. The math does not work. The velocity of your capital accumulation is far too slow to outpace inflation and the cost of living. This is the exact point where the loop traps you. You are trying to use passive income vehicles to generate your initial capital when their actual structural purpose is to absorb your excess capital. The wealthy do not start with passive income. They start with a highly concentrated, incredibly active engine. They build one core business asset that generates high margin, predictable cash flow through their own intense effort. They use their time to build an engine that forces cash out. And then, and only then, do they take that massive surplus of active cash and pour it into the dividend funds, the real estate portfolios, and the automated systems. Stop trying to skip the active phase of the wealth cycle. Stop looking for a way to get paid for doing nothing before you have built something that matters. Your lack of progress isn't because you lack a passive strategy. It's because you are refusing to give one single business the raw, unfiltered, exhausting active effort it requires to survive. Once you accept that your path to freedom requires absolute, concentrated active labor, you run into the next hidden enemy, your own biology. Chapter 3: Cognitive Architecture. Your inability to scale a business isn't a failure of willpower. It is a limitation of human biology. We live in a culture that worships multitasking. We are told that a modern entrepreneur should be a kinetic machine, answering emails while editing a video, checking ad metrics while listening to a business podcast, managing a community while mapping out a product launch. We wear our fractured attention like a badge of honor. But your brain does not care about your hustle culture fantasies. Your brain operates on strict, unyielding biological constraints. When you try to manage 3 separate side hustles alongside a demanding 9 to 5 corporate career, you are forcing your mind to operate in a state that goes completely against its evolutionary design. You are trying to run modern, high-intensity processing software on an ancient biological operating system. The result isn't wealth. It's cognitive fragmentation. To understand why your mind feels perpetually exhausted even when you haven't achieved anything tangible, we must examine a profound breakthrough in behavioral psychology pioneered by Dr. Sophie Leroy, the concept of attention residue. Mainstream productivity gurus want you to believe that your focus is like a light switch. They imply that you can spend an hour analyzing supply chains for your dropshipping store, flip the switch, and instantly bring 100% of your cognitive power to writing an article for your affiliate blog. This is structurally impossible. When you switch from task A to task B, your attention does not follow you immediately. A significant portion of your cognitive capacity remains tightly bound to the previous activity. Your brain is still processing that unresolved supplier email, still tracking that fluctuating crypto chart, still worrying about that unoptimized ad campaign. If you are juggling a corporate job and 3 half-baked side projects, you are forcing your brain through dozens of these switches every single day. By the time you sit down at 8 p.m. to work on your primary business idea, your mind is severely compromised. You aren't operating with your full intellect. You are trying to solve complex market problems with a brain that has attention residue bleeding out of every single lobe. You are functionally operating at a lower IQ than when you woke up. Every single time you pivot between unrelated business models, you trigger a destructive neurological process known as context switching. Your brain hates ambiguity. To perform deep, high-level creative problem-solving, your neural networks require stability. They need to map out the terrain, identify patterns, and construct complex mental models of the problem at hand. This mapping process takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes of uninterrupted focus just to initiate. When you disrupt this process by constantly checking notifications, switching browser tabs, or alternating between entirely different industries, you violently shatter that mental model. This chronic fragmentation does more than just stall your progress. It actively alters your body chemistry. Your brain perceives this constant, unorganized jumping as a state of low-level environmental chaos. In response, your adrenal glands flood your bloodstream with cortisol, the primary stress hormone. High baseline cortisol does something devastating to an entrepreneur. It completely shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for long-term strategic planning, risk assessment, and creative synthesis. At the same time, it hyperactivates the amygdala, your primitive fear center. Suddenly, you are no longer operating as a visionary leader. You are operating in survival mode. This is the exact biological mechanism behind shiny object syndrome. Your stressed-out brain, desperate for a quick hit of relief, forces you to abandon the difficult, boring work of your current project to chase the artificial, dopamine-soaked novelty of a brand new idea. The market does not reward mediocrity. In a globalized economy supercharged by artificial intelligence, average work gets replaced instantly. The only work that commands premium financial value is premium-grade execution. And premium-grade execution can only be produced in a state of deep work. The deep work state is a biological phase where cognitive capabilities are concentrated on a single, cognitively demanding task, allowing the brain to forge new myelin sheaths around neural pathways, permanently accelerating skill acquisition. When you focus on one single asset, your brain enters an elite flow state. Because the context never changes, the friction of attention residue drops to zero. Your mind can descend into the deep sublayers of a single problem. You begin to see connections your competitors miss. You write sharper copy, you design cleaner systems, and you build superior offers. You are moving a single boulder down a hill with the full weight of your biological potential. Contrast this with the alternative, the hyperactive hive mind mode, required to keep 3 separate side hustles on life support. In this state, you are constantly reacting. You're putting out fires on Etsy, tweaking a caption on Instagram, and looking at an analytics dashboard on Substack. You feel incredibly busy. You are typing fast, moving fast, and sweating. But you are completely substituting kinetic activity for real productivity. You are spinning your wheels so fast that the friction is burning out your engine, but you haven't moved an inch forward. Look back at your last 12 months of effort. Look at the trail of half-finished websites, abandoned social media accounts, and unread ebooks you've left behind. You didn't fail to monetize those projects because you lack talent. You failed because you forced your brain to play a game it is biologically engineered to lose. You tried to build an empire by giving 7 different industries a fractional, exhausted version of your mind. If you want to build true, unshakable wealth, you must respect your biological architecture. You must stop treating your mind like a dumping ground for every trendy side hustle on your feed. You must choose one mountain, take your entire cognitive army, and refuse to look away until you have reached the peak. But to do that, you have to face your deepest psychological fear. You have to kill your darlings. You have to walk away from the projects you've already poured your blood, sweat, and tears into. Chapter 4. The Sunk Cost Cure. We have arrived at the most painful part of this masterclass. Up to this point, everything we've discussed makes logical sense. You understand that diversification is a trap for beginners. You see that passive income is a mathematical illusion without major capital. You recognize that your brain is being biologically pulverized by context switching. Your intellect agrees with every single word, but your chest feels heavy. There is a knot in your stomach because you know exactly what this logic demands of you. It means you have to log into your hosting provider and cancel the subscription for that affiliate blog you haven't updated in 4 months. It means you have to shut down that Shopify store you spent 80 hours designing. It means you have to admit that the 3 courses you bought on Amazon FBA are sitting on your hard drive collecting digital dust. And it hurts. It hurts because human beings are wired to avoid loss at all costs. We are entering a psychological minefield known as sunk cost anxiety, and if you do not learn how to disarm it right now, you will spend the next 5 years of your life bleeding out your time and money to protect your own pride. Let's look at the raw mechanics of the sunk cost fallacy through the lens of a modern digital entrepreneur. You started a print-on-demand t-shirt brand 9 months ago. You spent $200 on a premium theme, $50 on a logo from Fiverr, and $30 a month for the platform subscription. More importantly, you spent your weekends, hundreds of hours of your finite, exhausted life, uploading designs and tweaking product descriptions. The store has made exactly 2 sales. Both were to your mother. Logically, the business model is dead. The niche is oversaturated, your margins are non-existent, and you don't have the ad budget to compete. A rational actor would look at the data and terminate the store in 5 seconds. But you don't. You keep paying the monthly subscription. You tell yourself, I've already put 9 months into this. If I quit now, all that time and money was for nothing. This is a profound cognitive error. Your brain is treating past, irreversible investments as a reason to make future investments. You cannot get those 9 months back. That money is gone forever. The only question that matters right now is this: is the next hour of your life better spent feeding a dying business or building a viable one? By keeping the dead project on life support, you aren't saving your past investment. You are simply guaranteeing that you lose your future potential. The most dangerous entities in your entrepreneurial journey are not your obvious failures. Obvious failures are easy to handle. When an ad campaign spends $500 and returns 0 clicks, you shut it down immediately because the pain is sharp and immediate. The real killers are what I call zombie projects. Zombie projects are ventures that are not dead enough to completely abandon, but not alive enough to ever make real money. They exist in a permanent state of corporate purgatory, spitting off just enough random notifications or a stray $20 affiliate commission every 3 months to trick you into thinking they are alive. Zombie projects are cognitive vampires. They don't take up all of your time, but they take up a massive amount of your RAM. When you lie down to sleep at night, a small part of your brain is thinking about the fact that you need to write a post for the blog. When you are at your 9 to 5 job, a small part of your mind is feeling guilty for not checking your dropshipping dashboard. This guilt drains your willpower. This background processing completely destroys the cognitive bandwidth you need to achieve scaling a business that could actually change your life. You are keeping these zombies alive because walking away feels like a personal failure. You think that if you close the store, you are admitting that you weren't good enough to make it work. But you have to realize that in the game of wealth creation, subtraction is almost always more profitable than addition. It is time to take the emotion out of the room and perform a cold, clinical strategic audit on your life. If you want to break out of the productivity loop, you must run every single one of your side hustles through this exact metric-driven filter this weekend. Open a spreadsheet and evaluate your projects using 3 strict operational rules. Rule number 1. The trailing 90-day law. Look at your net revenue minus operational costs. If a project has generated less than a clean $500 a month over the last 90 days, it is flagged for immediate termination. Rule number 2. The return on attention, ROA test. Divide net profit by total hours invested. If your hourly rate on a project is less than what you make at your day job, you are actively paying to work. Rule number 3. The Monolithic Monopolist check. Look at your strategic asset compatibility. Does this project directly feed, support, or scale your primary high-value skill? If not, it is a distraction. If a project fails these 3 metrics, you do not pause it. You do not put it on the back burner. You do not keep the domain just in case. You kill it. You delete the accounts, you cancel the software tools, and you clear the tabs. You must intentionally create an empty space in your life. The temporary discomfort of closing those chapters is nothing compared to the chronic, agonizing pain of spending the next 5 years running yourself into the ground for pennies. Let go of the dead weight. It isn't a failure to look at an experiment that didn't work and say, I have extracted the lessons from this, and I am closing the file. That is what professional CEOs do every single quarter. It is called capital reallocation. When you clear the zombies out of your path, you will feel an immediate wave of cognitive relief. For the first time in years, your financial freedom strategy will have a clear runway. You will finally have the raw, focused biological power needed to take one single vehicle and drive it all the way to the top. Now that the field is cleared of distractions, we can finally look at the architectural blueprint for your first 6-figure year. Chapter 5. The Monolithic Monopolist. We have cleared the wreckage. The zombie projects have been put down, the attention residue is clearing from your mind, and your daily cognitive budget has been clawed back. For the first time in your life, you are not playing a losing game of defense. Now we build your fortress. To break out of the productivity loop and achieve a real financial freedom strategy, you must adopt a philosophy that runs entirely counter to modern hustle culture. You must stop trying to be a diversified generalist and become a monolithic monopolist. A monolithic monopolist doesn't try to capture fragments of 5 different markets. They find one incredibly specific, highly acute pain point in the economic landscape, plant themselves right in front of it, and build an unshakable monopoly over that tiny micro-niche. They don't win by being broader than the competition. They win by going so incredibly deep that competing with them becomes mathematically irrational. When you compress all of your capital, all of your hours, and all of your cognitive bandwidth into a single, unyielding focus, the market responds with asymmetric financial rewards. To execute this strategy, you must submit your entire lifestyle to a strict operational framework known as the Rule of One. This framework strips away every single variable from your business design until only the raw, unfiltered essentials remain. If any project you launch has more than one of these components, you are violating the protocol and re-entering the diversification trap. First, one avatar. You are not selling to everyone who wants to make money or small business owners. That is a fatal generality. Your avatar must be a hyper-specific, clearly defined individual facing an acute, expensive problem. A weak avatar is real estate agents. A monolithic avatar is independent boutique real estate agents in luxury markets who are losing listings because they don't know how to produce high-end short-form video content. When your avatar is that sharp, your marketing copy writes itself. You aren't guessing what their pain points are. You know exactly what keeps them awake at 2 a.m. Second, one product. Stop trying to build an entire catalog of offers. You do not need a low-ticket tripwire, a mid-tier course, a community subscription, and a high-ticket mastermind. You need one single, high-ticket or high-margin core offer that completely solves your avatar's primary problem. Your offer should solve a problem so cleanly that you can confidently charge a premium price, minimum $2,000 to $5,000. To make $10,000 a month with a $20 t-shirt, you need to find 500 customers every single month. To make $10,000 a month with a monolithic offer, you only need 2 to 5 clients. Third, one channel. You do not have the bandwidth to build an organic TikTok presence, run meta ads, optimize a YouTube channel, and publish daily on LinkedIn. Choose one single traffic channel and master it completely. If your avatar hangs out on LinkedIn, you spend your next 365 days studying LinkedIn's algorithm, tracking its click-through rates, and refining your content hooks. If your acquisition strategy is cold email, you master deliverability, script writing, and data scraping. You do not look at another traffic source until your primary channel is completely saturated and highly optimized. Fourth, 1 year. This is the pillar where 99% of side hustlers fail. You must commit to executing this exact combination, this single avatar, this single product, through this single channel for 1 full year without changing a single variable. When a business doesn't make money in the first 60 days, the average amateur assumes the business model is broken and jumps to a new shiny object. The monolithic monopolist understands that the first 90 days are purely for data collection. You aren't failing. You are testing variations of your headline, your pitch, and your mechanisms. If you change the product or the avatar every 2 months, you reset your data to 0 and ensure you remain a permanent beginner. Let's establish the absolute, non-negotiable law of expansion. When are you finally allowed to build a second stream of income? When are you legally permitted to launch that second product or invest in that new venture? You are only allowed to diversify once you have successfully crossed the scaling threshold. The scaling threshold is the strict baseline requiring a business to generate a minimum of $10,000 in net profit per month for 6 consecutive months, while operating under a documented standard operating procedure, SOP, that allows the core delivery to function without the founder's active daily manual input. If your business makes $12,000 in March, but drops to $4,000 in April, you have not crossed the threshold. You do not have a stable asset. You have an irregular income stream that is still highly dependent on market volatility and your own personal output. Furthermore, if that $10,000 a month requires you to work 14 hours a day manually answering support tickets, editing videos, and taking sales calls, you are not ready to diversify. If you try to launch a second business while tied down by the day-to-day operations of the first, both systems will collapse under their own weight. You must spend the later phase of your first year documenting your processes. You write out the exact steps for how leads are generated, how sales are closed, and how clients are fulfilled. You build standard operating procedures. You hire your first virtual assistant or operational specialist to take those tasks off your plate. Once that single core asset is predictable, systematized, and spitting off high-margin cash while requiring less than 5 hours of your week to manage, only then have you earned the right to take that excess capital and buy your second stream of income. Look at the chessboard of your life right now. You've been trying to win by moving every single pawn at the exact same time, scattering your focus across the entire board. It's time to stop. Find your single high-value asset. Lock in your avatar. Solidify your core offer. Master your customer acquisition channel. And give that exact machine 12 months of your uninterrupted, obsessive, active effort. You do not need 7 half-baked streams of income to build financial freedom. You need one monolithic engine that works. The illusion of multitasking is keeping you trapped in the rat race. You do not need more projects. You need more depth. You do not need to work harder across 7 different chaotic fields. You need to bring the full force of your biological potential to a single, unyielding point. When you make the mental shift from an exhausted, fragmented side hustler to a hyper-focused monolithic monopolist, the entire landscape changes. The financial anxiety begins to fade. The mental fog lifts. Your bank account finally starts to reflect the raw hours of effort you put into your life. This weekend, your operational orders are simple. Do not download another productivity app. Do not register a new domain name. Do not buy another entry-level course on the trend of the week. Stop adding new variables to an already broken equation. Instead, open a blank spreadsheet and perform the precise strategic audit we outlined in Chapter 4. Look at your trailing 90-day revenue. Run the return on attention test. Ruthlessly eliminate your zombie projects, clear out the digital clutter, and choose your one asset. Lock in your single avatar, your single high-ticket product, and your single traffic channel for the next 365 days. But building a monolithic business requires a completely different type of daily execution. To run a high-margin asset in a hyper-focused state without burning out, you cannot rely on standard time management tricks. You need a high-leverage daily routine designed around your cognitive architecture. Click on this video right here, where I break down the exact workflow that allows you to outproduce your competition in just 4 hours a day. Watch it now, protect your bandwidth, and let's fix your focus.